Hello and welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. I have another new pen day video today, and this is a Leonardo Momento Zero in the Alga configuration, I believe with rhodium trim. So we're going to get my first impressions unboxing this. I'm going to be inking up and doing a writing sample, and then I'll share my final thoughts. Okay, looks like there's a little... Okay, so this just is like a little cardboard piece that stays in the box. This is the, what is, ink, it's like ink inspirations. He calls this like fountain pen porn or something like that. It's so funny. But this looks like warranty information for your pen. This is kind of cool, getting to see the process of them making it. Probably not this specific one. And then here is our box. It's got a nice matte papery finish that I'm sure you can hear on the microphone, goodness. And it is a clamshell box, very nice. Here is the lovely pen. Let's see, is there anything? Okay, so this doesn't lift out or anything, so it's just the pen itself. Here is the pen out of the little plastic thing. It comes with the classic Leonardo little thing here. I don't even know what to call this, charm maybe. It's just on a nice little piece of yarn or string. Here is the clip. It is a beautifully springy clip, and it has this really cool like rolling ball function. So it clips very easily to like paper or anything you want. I do like that about this Leonardo pen for sure. This is, like I said, the Alga colorway in the rhodium trim. I believe this also comes in gold trim, but I wanted to try out the rhodium since I have gold on another Leonardo pen I have. And since this one is not a Zero Grande or Zero Grande 2.0, it is just the regular one. It does have a converter in it. But let me do a cap test or turn test of the cap. So we have one. Okay, so yeah, one turn, maybe a little less than one turn. I do want to mention that there is a little bit of engraving on the cap here. It says Leonardo, and this is number 7739. I don't know if that's just like the pen blank or what. On the barrel of the pen itself, there does not seem to be any markings that I can tell. It's just pretty cool to see all the different green faceting in it. The pen is completely smooth, but the faceting is internal, which I think makes it look really, really neat. Since this is also a Momento Zero, it, like I said, it has that converter. It also has what's called a blind cap. So this little end piece comes off and you can screw or turn the converter inside without opening up the entire pen, which I think is kind of nifty. I think if I were to need anything to do with the converter though, I would probably just undo the whole pen, but it's nice that this is an option if that's something that you cared about. I did get this in a medium. Did I? I did get this in a medium nib, and this is a gorgeous large Leonardo nib. I love the new nibs that they're doing with the sunburst kind of direction plating on it. Absolutely gorgeous. Just for reference, I'll show my gold one. So here is the gold plated version. This is on my Leonardo Momento Zero Grande 2.0 in Sunflower, and the nibs look almost identical in size. The Grande, this one, is a little bit longer, but that could also be just the way it's sitting in the pen rest here. If we completely disassemble the pen, this comes off here. The converter unscrews, so don't pull. It is a screw converter. And then I believe this nib section, yeah, the nib section also unscrews, so if you wanted to change your nib unit to a different size, you could easily purchase a Leonardo nib unit and replace it. I believe this is new, or on their newer pens. It's not something common on their older modeled pens. But again, if we completely disassemble the pen to all of its components, that is what we are looking at. So we got pen body, blind cap, converter, nib, nib unit, I guess, or the grip section, and then the cap, which is pretty cool. I do want to mention, as I'm putting this back together, that everything is very easy to screw, unscrew. It is very smooth. There's no catching or anything. It's very well mechanized. I really like the just functionality of this. This is an Italian pen. I mean, Leonardo Officina, probably should give that away. But I do like how smooth everything is in the turnings aspect. Now let's do some size comparisons. So here is that regular Momento Zero next to a Momento Zero Grande 2.0. You can definitely see the size difference there and how they appear. Here is it next to a Lamy Safari, a 𝗬𝗏𝘃, an 𝗬𝗏𝘃𝗏, and then I'll also do a 𝗏𝗏. So this is a 𝗏𝗏, which is considered a really large pen too. So I would say that this is probably closest in comparison to either the Lamy or even the 𝗬𝗏𝘃 next to it. The 𝗬𝗏𝘃𝗏 maybe. Like, I feel like these four here are very close together. I wouldn't say it's an oversized pen like the Grande 2.0 or the 𝗏𝗏𝘃. I would say it's pretty standard in its size. If we were to uncap these, I'm not going to uncap the 𝗏𝗏 just because I feel like it's pretty large. But for comparison, uncapped, I would say it's probably closest to the 𝗬𝗏𝘃𝗏 uncapped, which is my most comfortable rider, which makes me very happy. But comparing it to the Leonardo Grande 2.0, you can see that lengthwise, uncapped, they are very close. It's mainly, the only difference is the nib size, like the length of the nib. And then obviously if you were to post the pen, it's going to be much larger posted. I think if you have average size hands, like I feel like I have average size hands, either would be fine if you wanted to get a Momento Zero Grande or even just a regular Momento Zero. I will say the grip sections are very different though. And on that note, I want to go ahead and compare the different size of the grip sections. I don't have any measuring tools, unfortunately, so this is just going to be kind of eyeballing. But looking at these two together, I would definitely say that the Momento Zero Grande has a much girthier nib section, and the Momento Zero is much slimmer. I can't really take apart the Momento Zero Grande because it is a piston filler, but you can definitely see it's pretty much same size as the, not as the big barrel down here, but probably as the end. So maybe if we do the end caps, you'll see it a little bit easier. But the Momento Zero is definitely much slimmer than the Momento Zero Grande. So if grip section, if you need a larger grip section, it's definitely handy to have the Grande version versus the regular Momento Zero. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and ink up this beauty right here with a ink that I mixed myself. So this is a Birmingham pen company ink recipe called Algae Bloom. I felt it was appropriate for a pen named Alga to have an algae ink in it. I don't know, it just seemed very fitting. So I'm gonna go ahead and ink this up and we will do a writing sample. So this is the Leonardo Momento Zero in Alga with rhodium trim and a medium nib. In terms of the line width left to right, like just making little marks, it doesn't feel like the nib is misaligned or anything. It feels very, very smooth. It's actually very pleasant. The nib is very stiff though. There's hardly any flex to it whatsoever, which makes sense since it is a steel nib. Those tend to be stiffer and don't allow a lot of give. In terms of writing, I really like this. I do think it is a bit broad, definitely more of the Western size nib. It's a very wet medium. Could also be that this ink is pretty wet. I find that Birmingham Pen Company inks are fairly juicy, so it could just be that combination, but I'm really quite happy with this so far. Let's go ahead and do some line comparison just to see if the nib truly is quote unquote medium. I feel like it's pretty broad if I'm being honest. So that's some downstrokes of the Leonardo medium. I know this is a different ink color, but this is a Lamy broad, which is pretty close to that same size. Here is an Esterbrook fine. which is definitely much thinner than both of those. That's interesting. And then just for funsies, we will do a TWSBI extra fine, which is definitely the skinniest of them all. Yeah, so I would say that the nib the line variation is much closer to a broad line, especially on the downstrokes. I think you could write pretty thin with it if you wanted to, but it's definitely a thicker line considering it is a medium nib. I do think it's a bit more on the western side of line thickness though. It's definitely a pretty broad medium. Overall, final thoughts on this pen. I actually really like it. I don't know how I feel about size compared to the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande that I have. This is only my second Leonardo pen, so I don't really know. Once I write with this a bit more, I will confirm on how I feel about comfort, I guess, between this and the larger of the Leonardos that I have. I will say that I love the coloring on this a lot. It's just really cool and looks, I mean, I know it's made after like seaweed, but it looks like seaweed underwater, I guess, because of the way everything's reflecting in it. Very, very cool. I do have one more Leonardo that I went ahead and pre-ordered from Atlas Stationers, and I'm very excited for that to get here. It is the golden abalone, which is the same resin that Jonathan Brooks makes. It'll be my first Jonathan Brooks resin. I'm very excited. So when that pen comes in, I will definitely be doing a video on that as well, and we'll compare and see how it's a little bit different from this one. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, for joining me here today. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. But for now, again, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.